Hello and welcome, Must Players. I'm Mark Santamartino, and this is your weekly dose of all things gaming, film, entertainment, frankly, anything we want to talk about. Ryan Mason is still unavailable this week, so we've got the best substitute ever. In fact, somebody that will be joining the Must Play team permanently, hopefully. Got to work out some timing issues, but it is Fish. David Pether, how are you, Fish?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming for what is going to be a special episode. We'll get into that. And the man who was here from episode 1, Julian Price.
Yeah, haven't missed an episode, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, you're doing so much better than me, so.
So much.
The viewers, they need it.
Well, I'm happy that you're here, Fish, because I don't think we've seen you since like episode 4 or whatever it was that we had you on.
10, because
Actually,
we had a little birthday cake.
It was episode 10. Good memory. And this one is going to be quite special because we're pushing away the majority of the news of this week. We know that there was the new Captain Marvel trailer and plenty of other great stuff, but this week we wanted to dedicate to our discussions for game and film of the year. Now, the way this is going to work is the three of us are going to nominate 2 games each that we like, and think are good contenders for Game of the Year. And we're also going to include Ryan Mason's 2 games as well. We will then hold back on our votes and we will be asking you to help us decide exactly what is the must-play Game of the Year for 2018. So there's no better way to get into this, gents, than ask you each for your first nomination. Jules, why don't we start with you? What is, in your mind, the top contender for Game of the Year 2018?
Spider-Man.
Don't think that's a surprise.
How did I know what you were going to say?
You could have just said it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, why? Convince us, because the way we're going to do this is each of us is going to vote 3, 2, 1, essentially like a Brownlow system of votes, and then we're going to put all the games that we nominate up on Facebook and Instagram and ask you to give an extra vote for that game, and you can vote as many times as you like from different accounts. So, Jules, why is Spider-Man the game that everyone should vote for?
It is the game that I've had the most fun playing in a very long time, and the story for Spider-Man is one that I've enjoyed more than any other game I've played in a long time. The gameplay was innovative and it looked beautiful. So that's basically my pitch for Spider-Man.
It's hard to argue. Did you play Spider-Man?
I did, yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that? I mean...
Look, I didn't like it as much as you did. I loved it, but I wasn't as blown away. I kind of felt like I'd played this game before, and of all the other more rubbish iterations of the Spider-Man movies that have sort of come out, and we've gotten the video game for that, I thought it took that and just did a much better job of it. Which
it did a much better job.
Much better job, but it was still the same. Like, oh, there's a crime happening over here. We got to stop and do that. But saying that, it was a massive step up, and it is.
But
it
that
is
the premise of Spider-Man.
I know, and this is what I will say.
No,
is
we're not happy with that. Okay, that's not...
no, we don't want to fight crime. No, it was more. It's finally the Spider-Man game that we deserve.
Yeah.
So It's not part of mine.
This DC is still coming.
Yeah. So I'm more excited to get back into it. Actually, I didn't finish it. Don't judge me.
You were playing with your girlfriend, weren't you?
Yeah. That's why it took so long.
It
was she just never has time to play.
Look, it was an excellent game. I mean, we've spoken about it ad nauseum on this show for good reason, I believe. Like Jules said, it is the best Spider-Man game that we've ever had, and it genuinely felt amazing to control. It was fun from start to finish in my book, but we'll see if it earns a vote or if Dave can pull one away from Spider-Man. Why? What is going to be one of your first, or what is your first nomination?
Look, see, I feel like I'm way off the page when it comes to the Game of the Year things.
That's fine.
I looked up the list the other day of the Game of the Year nominations, and none of mine are on there.
That's good. We want variety.
But I will say, like, things like Spider-Man and God of War and all that are huge games and big steps for the gaming industry. But the game that spoke the most to me this year was Detroit.
Become Human.
Yeah, I just loved that game.
Now that is, correct me if I'm wrong, third-person sort of action game where you play effectively as these androids who are fighting for, or are basically human themselves?
It's not even really an action game. Okay. It's more of like it's like an interactive movie. And, I'm a movie guy, so I love the stories and I love just how immersive this game was. And it's kind of one of those ones where you can play it many different ways. Like you can play it over and over again and get different endings. So that's what really spoke to me. And every time you played it again, it was like playing it for the first time. So I got really addicted to this game, and I haven't had a game do that to me in a long, long time. And I think just because it felt so different. There are games like that. Until Dawn was one, and it's actually it's kind of like a spiritual sequel to Heavy Rain. I don't know if you're aware of that one.
PlayStation 3, I believe.
Yes.
Yep.
Great game as well. A lot of people don't like that sort of game because it's not particularly a game.
Yep.
Like a lot of people would say it doesn't feel like a game because it isn't like you're a third person just going around shooting things. It's all story beats and things like that. But I just got so sucked into it, and I'd have to say it's my favorite game this year.
Good pitch. Look, for me, I'm going to start with a game that you already mentioned, God of War. I mean, I understand that it's sort of a vanilla pick when it comes to the discussion for Game of the Year 2018, but I don't think that this game really put a foot wrong. I think right from the get-go, that game had the right direction in terms of they knew they wanted to make a game which was all one shot, which is an amazing piece of cinematography. The way they managed to do that throughout the entire game is just simply stunning. Visually, I think it's fantastic. I think its script is done really well. There's enough twists and turns in the story. And I think in terms of modern games, particularly when we see games similar to The Last of Us, Uncharted, I mean, I feel like a lot of their locales or locations are very samey, whereas this took us to vastly different worlds, at least stylistically, whether it be the forest area where you sort of begin and it's heavily snowed under, or to the realm of the Dark Elves, or whether it be to Jotunheim, where it's the realm of the giants. I really felt like this gave us a great sense of a fantastical world, which I don't think we've seen as good of an example of in terms of just variety this year for a AAA game. The controls were sound. I absolutely loved the way that Kratos' character had evolved and continued to evolve. I think in terms of character development, for someone who was such a two-dimensional character, he was off the charts in this video game. And
God, I feel like I'm really missing out here because that's one I didn't.
Have you not played it?
Oh, I haven't played.
I might have to lend it to you. Here it is, Jules. Take it home. Right? God of War.
I've got my time. I've got for gaming.
Yeah, well, mate, you've had 8 days off.
Yeah, you got it.
Just give it a taste. You play that for a little bit, and I guarantee it'll steal one of your votes away come next week. It is a fantastic. It's fantastic from start to finish, and I blasted through it. My only gripe is that I wish there was some more of it, to be honest.
Yeah, the only bad thing was it ended.
Yeah, how dare it end? And I chased down all of those Valkyries as well. So there was plenty to do. Before we get to your second and final nomination, Jules, I should mention that our good friend Ryan Mason wanted to nominate a few different games. Now, one that he had on his list, and you might have to correct me if I'm wrong here, Jules, because I think we've got these a bit out of order, but I'll go with RimWorld, because I know that he definitely wanted to nominate this game.
Yeah.
We will let Meso have his say next week if possible, but I don't think it's going to steal my vote away. It's basically, I mean, you explain it, Jules. It is an indie.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's not one that really drew my attention, but Meso was telling us that he fell in love with this world. Building, the graphics aren't by any means next gen, or whatever you want to call it. It's just the simplicity of the gameplay. Anyway, I think Meso's done a little write-up on it once
He has, yeah. It's up on our website. He's also done one for Black Ops 4, and we'll give him Red Dead Redemption 2 as an extra one, because I think all of us would have liked to have mentioned Red Dead Redemption in the conversation, and we might as well talk about that for now before we get our final picks. Undoubtedly, biggest game of the year, in my mind, in terms of hype and sales. We know that it's made way more money than the Avengers has, and it did that in like a week and a half. It's a massive 60-hour story. It's one that had probably the most intricate real world in terms of NPCs. I do have the issues with just the simple geography in the world itself, but what they were able to do with detailed characters and having pretty much every single person you meet in that world be somebody different is quite astounding. I mean, you both played a fair chunk of Red Dead. I mean, would you...
It's not... It doesn't get my vote, but it was a great game from what I've played.
Why doesn't it get your vote?
It's not a game that I find myself wanting to pick up and play again and again. Like I played for a big chunk of time. Something else got my attention. I was playing that, and I have not wanted to put another game back into my PlayStation. Only I haven't wanted to put Red Dead back in the PlayStation only because I can't find that time. I can't dedicate that time to play it because you really need to be in that mindset.
Oh, you need hours. It's a slow burn,
You
and I
can't
suppose
just be like, I'll just play that for 5 minutes. No, you can't do that.
no. Dave, I mean,
Look, in terms of like game of the year things, I think it would probably win. In terms of like pushing the gaming industry forward and such, I think Red Dead has done a tremendous job. It's just a huge.
Sorry, that's Mum.
Oh, Mum. It's a huge game, and like you said, the immersiveness of all the different characters and the different events that can just happen along the way in these games. Like, it's fantastic in that way. It doesn't get my vote because exactly what you're saying. I find it's too hard. I don't have that time to just immerse myself. I really want to, and at one point I am going to. I just don't right now.
Yeah.
And I was actually telling
same,
Jules
yeah.
before this, I've actually gone back and started playing some like PS2 and PS1 games because I just want to play simpler games. Like, it's such a complicated game, and that's what I love about it, but I don't have the time right now to get to it.
That's a good segue into my second vote.
but before we get there, can I just quickly say with Red Dead, controls aren't great.
That's the worst part of it.
They're not
The worst
perfect.
part.
It's frustrating. I mean, I understand you go for realism, but why sometimes all of your weapons just spontaneously go back in your horse's saddle, and then all of a sudden you end up in a gunfight and you don't have anything but a pistol? Bizarre. And my third and biggest gripe is that it is an open world that purports to give you so much freedom, but it is intrinsically linear. To the point where I was doing a bank robbery the other day. I waited for the bank manager to open the vault, and I thought, I'll silence him. Shot him in the face, and I failed the mission.
Yeah.
He wasn't necessary. I redid the mission.
Silenced him.
I saw. Anyway, I redid the mission. He didn't need to be used in any other way, shape, or form, but I failed because of that. And I failed other missions for ridiculous reasons too. So, just wanted to say that is why Red Dead Redemption 2 won't get my vote. Spectacular game, very popular game, but not the one that's going to win, I think, Must Play's Game of 2018. Now, sorry, Jules, I ruined your segue.
No, forget that. I'm not going to talk to you guys anymore.
Don't be a dragon.
I had honestly a tough time trying to pick a second game. Not that there has been an overwhelming number of games that I would like to put forward. I mean, games that I have played this year, Far Cry 5, Jurassic World Evolution, some of those games that I put a bit of time into. But I think the one that's got my vote is not necessarily a new game. It's a reignited game. And it's Spyro for me.
You voted for Spyro?
Yeah.
Mate, no, that's not going to win Game of the Year.
It's my game of the year.
Yeah.
It's one of my games of the year.
I'm disappointed in you.
And a special mention to Dead Cells.
Nah, it would have been better for you to mention Dead Cells and have an active...
You haven't played Spyro. That's the nostalgia's there for me. It's not there for you.
Yeah, it's a great nostalgia trip, but no, it's not Game of the Year.
Would you count it as a new game? Because it has been
No, technically not. But
for you, it's
for
the
me,
game. That's the game that you've loved so much.
I almost don't want to accept your nomination. I'm willing to strike that out and give you another go.
I'm not going to have another go.
That's
Spyro
shit.
Reignited is my second nomination because of the nostalgia and the fun and joy it's brought me this year. It's Game of the Year. It's not Game of the all-time...
Yeah, exactly. But there's like a billion games which are more important than Spyro.
Look at the list of the games this year, other than Red Dead Redemption 2, which I refuse to give my vote to. I'm not giving it to Far Cry 5, because that honestly didn't...
Oh my god. He's
Reignited.
undermined our entire voting system.
No. It's there because it's brought me joy, and I have 120% of it. So.
120.
Did you 120% all three games,
No,
or
just
just
the
one?
first one so far? Because it came out like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, great.
Give it time.
Anyway.
All right, as disappointing and as lackluster as that was, we'll move on to Dave's
As my watch tells me to breathe.
second pick. Dave.
Look, I'm going way off kilter, and I'm gonna
I'm
go.
not going to accept this vote, man.
You won't, because I'm actually gonna say I'm voting for something for the reasons that I didn't vote for Spider-Man, which is funny. Ni no Kuni 2 has been the second game this year that I have just put an obscene amount of hours into, and it's just an old school style RPG. And it's like many other RPGs before it, and I loved it.
But is it just, I mean, why should this one?
Well, I am a sucker for RPGs.
You need to convince me, all right? If you want to steal one
sorry,
of my votes,
you
need to convince me.
Well,
Jules did a terrible job. So everything's hinging on you.
God damn it. God damn it. Look, I just found the world very immersive. And to me, that's the big tick on any game. If I can get immersed into the world, and just love the characters and not worry about gameplay like Red Dead. We just mentioned that the controls really shook me for that. And whereas Ni no Kuni was simple, it's Studio Ghibli style, so it's beautiful.
I was going to say, I mean, the art, the cell shaded look of Ni no Kuni is timeless. It is going to stand up like Wind Waker for decades, or even at least we'll say years. And generations of consoles, simply because it's simple, but it's so artistically sound.
That's right, and it's just a true. It's just truly nice just to watch it. If anything, like it's watching a Studio Ghibli movie, which is nostalgic in itself. So not unlike Spyro, it talks to me and the little kid in me, and I just completely immersed myself in that game. Like I'm talking 80 hours, which I never do. Like so I have to, because when we were talking about doing this, it was definitely Detroit was my big one, but then Ni no Kuni was the only other game that I think I've put that time into. So it has to be my second vote.
Fair enough. How did you end up finishing it? Because I know there are some.
No, I didn't finish it.
You didn't finish it, and it's your game of the year.
Yeah.
I know it's one of those, because I know some RPGs are just so long.
They just keep going.
Painfully long. But
that would be my only negative. It's probably a little too long, but I'll go back to it. I'll finish it.
Slow grind.
Yeah.
And my final game is going to be the only indie title. Oh no, sorry, we got RimWorld from Mesa. The only platformer title, at least, on this list, and that is going to be Celeste. I spoke about this game ad nauseum in last week's episode just with you, Jules, and it is one that I think a lot of people will forget about because it came out in January. It is a 16-bit style platformer, which is incredibly tough, which follows the journey of a young girl named Madeline who wants to climb a mountain. Meets crazy characters along the way, but the real, I suppose, symbolism behind her journey up the mountain is a metaphor for her depression that she's trying to beat and her anxiety. And the way that unfolds, and the way that they've actually intertwined that battle against mental illness into powers, eventually, when she comes to terms with the dark self that lives inside her, is one of the most rewarding aspects of character development that I've ever seen. I didn't expect much going into this game, which is very rare, because we get so many trailers, typically. I literally saw that this game got a 10 on IGN's reviews, and I thought, I've got to give this a go. So I downloaded it on my Switch, and it was quite literally probably the best game I've played this year in terms of control. And it had some of the best character development, even though it is a 16-bit title, effectively an indie title. I don't think there's been a game that's really potentially moved me as much as this one, particularly if you know somebody in your life that is going through a battle with anxiety or depression. So
I never played it, but I'm just looking at it while you're talking about it, and it looks pretty nice.
It looks fun. Like, man, this picture's, you've won me.
It also looks quite difficult.
It is a tough game, and it gets harder. I mean, the basic levels to get to the end of the game are quite tough, and then you have to collect all the strawberries, and you can unlock B-sides as well. So I collected all the strawberries. I got through all of the B-sides, I didn't do those 100%. And then I realised that once you beat them, there are C-sides, which is even harder levels. I just said, I can't do it. I will beat my head against a brick wall ad nauseum if I really like a game. But this is one that I ended up just sort of saying, I'm so satisfied. And it might get my 3 votes over something like a God of War, only because... it is, as I said, one of the games where I felt like it had some of the best character development tied into ability that I've ever seen. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it might have been made by just one guy.
Dude.
Yep.
Matt makes games.
That is the studio. So Matt Thorson, congratulations from me, just off the bat. I love what you developed, and I really hope we get more soon. And I loved playing it on the Switch, either in handheld or docked mode. If there is one game I would recommend you pick up, it would be That.
Well, I want to play it now from that
I
pitch.
he also made it with someone named Noel Berry.
And Noel Berry.
Sorry,
okay.
Noel Berry. Well done.
We'll give you some credit as well.
But I got to say, your pitch has won me. I want to go play it now. And
If you get a chance to, I mean, I think it's about $30. If you get a chance to, particularly on
$28 on Steam,
particularly on the Switch, because I feel like it is better with traditional
it feels
controls.
like a really good one.
I would highly recommend it, and just even give it a go, because even just watch some stuff of it on YouTube, because it's amazing.
Well, I got to say, like, just hearing what we're all saying here, we're all kind of shying away from the big ones besides Spider-Man and God of War. Like, we're looking for other things here. Like, Spyro's going back to nostalgia.
Well, that's just where it's going.
Yeah, and
the AAA game makers aren't delivering.
And I think that's interesting, isn't it? Because they're throwing all this money into, like, how much did Red Dead cost? Like, something
Well,
obscene.
Red Dead would have made their money.
Yeah,
they have, but
let's not forget. I mean, we do have some big AAA titles on this list. I mean, Spider-Man, God of War, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which is one of Meso's nominees, Red Dead Redemption 2, and I mean Detroit to an extent.
Like my two are AAA games,
Yeah.
but I like in terms of like a game like Celeste is going up against a behemoth like Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's awesome. Like in this day and age, we're starting to look for other things in games, you know, and it's really interesting.
And I think that's why we made Must Plays, because we realised that there were a whole heap of games that we like playing which are a bit off the beaten track.
Yeah.
Whether it be you with Ni no Kuni or Jules with his 20-year-old game that he thinks deserves a spot of Game of the Year nomination, but whatever. And I think it, on the whole, as pretty as a game can be, if it doesn't play well and it's not intrinsically fun moment to moment, you're going to lose a lot of people. And I think that's where Red Dead loses me. Just my opinion. Let us know what you think. Of course, we're going to post all of these 9 titles plus one more. I'm going to give Fortnite an honorary nomination just because it has been so big this year. And I feel like it has not only changed the face of gaming in terms of...
Let's just hope that the teenagers listening don't find our Facebook page.
Yeah, they'll be voting like crazy. Look, if people... Because I don't think any of us are really going to give Fortnite 3 votes, but if there are enough
I'll give it
people...
3 votes if my victory counts for anything.
For your one victory where you killed nobody.
My only game I ever played, and I got victory number 1.
Man. Hold on to that.
Anyway, so that's 10 games in total. We'll run through them again. I nominated God of War and Celeste. Dave nominated Detroit Become Human and Ni no Kuni 2. Julian nominated... I can't even remember your first game because I'm so upset about your second game. Spider-Man and Spyro the Reignited Trilogy. Ryan Mason has nominated Call of Duty Black Ops 4 as well as RimWorld. And the 2 honorary nominations are Red Dead Redemption 2 as well as Fortnite. Those games will be up on our Facebook page. We want you to vote for them and influence what our Game of the Year for 2018 will be. If you want to vote for a game that is not on our list, please comment below and let us know why it is deserving of a spot on our list, and we will endeavour to do so. Some of the big ones that we've just missed out on are, I suppose... I know you had Dead Cells there briefly, Jules, but that didn't make one of your 2 nominations. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, there was a lot of hype around that game. I know there's a lot of love for that game.
There's a lot of problems with that game.
Yes, but I mean, Shadow of the Colossus as well was a big remaster. So, I mean, there's plenty for us to really sink our teeth into this year. A lot of them that we played, but clearly they haven't made our list of 10. If there is a big error on there, please let us know. mustplay.net.au. You can also hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and not Snapchat, because I hate Snapchat.
No Snapchat.
I think we go through this every week. Fuck you, Snapchat.
Thank you again for watching, and please get involved in voting for what should be the must-play game of 2018. Dave, thank you again for joining us.
Anytime.
Jules, always welcome, although now less welcome.
No, please.
We're going to eat pizza and argue for the rest of the night. Have a great time. Have a great time. I'm going to redo that.